What if exhaustion wasn't just physical? What if fatigue was the soul whispering, pleading for you to stop and listen? In the stillness of late nights and early mornings, there's a kind of weariness that sleep cannot fix. It creeps into your bones, wraps itself around your chest, and quietly squeezes until breathing feels like effort. But there is no fever, no diagnosis, just tiredness. Chronic, unshakable, soul-deep tiredness. Carl Jung believed that symptoms are not enemies to be destroyed, but sacred messages to be heard. And what is this modern plague of fatigue, if not the soul setting off alarms in a language we've forgotten how to read? When your body slumps, when your motivation crumbles, it may not be laziness or weakness. It might be your soul saying, you've strayed too far from your path. Think about how often we ignore the signals, the missed heartbeat when we walk into that office, the sighs that escape us more than words, the tears that surprise us during commercials. These are not malfunctions, these are messages. We weren't made to live in hyperspeed. We weren't built for lives so disconnected from meaning. The soul grows weary not from labor, but from lack of purpose. And in a world that celebrates overwork, we've normalized a kind of spiritual malnutrition. This chapter is about learning to listen, to recognize that not all tiredness is equal, that when exhaustion lingers, it may be time to look within, not for rest, but for realignment. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist, once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." He believed that the unconscious speaks through symbols, dreams, and, yes, symptoms. Fatigue, in Jung's framework, isn't a problem to be solved, but a message to be decoded. The unconscious doesn't speak in words, it speaks in patterns, synchronicities, and disruptions in your normal rhythm. And one of the most powerful disruptions is chronic exhaustion. When your energy disappears without reason, when your joy evaporates despite success, it's the psyche pushing through the cracks of your constructed identity. Jung called this the shadow, the repressed part of ourselves we deny, ignore, or forget. Have you ever felt a sudden aversion to a job you once loved, an inexplicable sense of dread when waking up? These are the unconscious trying to guide you back to your authentic self. You are not just tired, you are disconnected from what your soul longs. Or for. The soul rebels not with violence, but with silence. It withdraws its energy. It lets your life grind down to a halt, not to punish you, but to redirect you. In Jungian psychology, every symptom is a symbol, and fatigue is often the symbol of spiritual detachment. We ignore it, suppress it, medicate it, but what if we listened? What if your exhaustion is not your enemy, but your invitation? There are moments when the body can no longer carry the weight of what the soul has been silently enduring. You drag yourself through days, smiling on the outside, but every cell in your body is screaming, no more. This isn't about sleep deprivation. This isn't solved by vacations or bubble baths. This is about spiritual depletion, a warning sign that your life is out of sync with your truth. It begins subtly. You stop enjoying things you once loved. Laughter feels like memory. You fake interest, fake energy, fake okayness. But the body remembers what the mind tries to forget, and slowly, it begins to break down. Psychosomatic medicine has shown us that the body often expresses what the mind represses. Chronic fatigue, muscle pain, migraines, these can all be physical manifestations of psychological pain, and deeper still, of spiritual crisis. Imagine your soul like a compass. It always points toward purpose. But when you live inauthentically, chasing status instead of meaning, security instead of fulfillment, it starts to lose connection with you. And when it can no longer guide you, it warns you through fatigue, through burnout, through collapse. But here's the terrifying part. Most people don't listen. They push through. They caffeinate. They numb. They keep pretending. until one day they can't anymore. When your body gives out, it may be the most honest thing you've done in years. It may be the soul's last cry to save what remains. You are not broken. You are being called back. Sometimes the heaviest things we carry don't belong to us, and yet we drag them through every relationship, every responsibility, every day, without question. This kind of exhaustion feels different. It's not just the tiredness after a long week or a sleepless night. It's the kind that coils around your soul, whispering, something is wrong, even when everything looks right. It's the soul protesting the weight of inherited trauma, cultural expectations, unspoken obligations. From a young age, we're taught to carry what others can't hold. A parent's sadness, a sibling's failure, a partner's anger. We become containers for pain that isn't ours, and over time, we forget where they end and we begin. This confusion becomes chronic fatigue, not just of the body, but of identity. Carl Jung warned of this fragmentation. When we suppress parts of ourselves to survive, when we shapeshift to be accepted, we betray our essence, and the soul, always alert, begins to shut down. You might find yourself saying yes when you mean no, taking on tasks that drain you, smiling through resentment. These small betrayals pile up. And then one day, your body collapses, not from what you've done, but from what you've allowed to be done to you. True healing begins not with rest, but with release, asking, whose weight am I carrying? And daring to put it down. It is not selfish to protect your energy, it is sacred. What if your body isn't tired, but your spirit is misplaced? We often treat exhaustion as a physical issue, solvable with rest, diet, or better time management. But what if fatigue is a misdiagnosed spiritual signal, a red flag waving from the depths of your being, saying you are living in contradiction? Jung believed that every soul comes with a blueprint, a unique essence seeking to unfold. When our external life contradicts that blueprint, friction occurs. This friction manifests as anxiety, depression, fatigue, not because we're weak, but because we're out of tune. Imagine trying to play a beautiful melody on an instrument that's out of key. That's what life feels like when you're not aligned with your inner truth. Every action, even the smallest, becomes exhausting. Maybe you're in a job that pays well, but stifles your creativity. Maybe you're surrounded by people, yet profoundly alone. Maybe you wake up each day with no excitement, no anticipation, just a dull repetition of responsibilities. This isn't laziness. It's your soul revolting against a life that's not yours. And here lies the danger. Society applauds burnout. It calls it ambition. It glamorizes overwork. But Jung warned that this detachment from the self creates neurosis, psychic disharmony that festers beneath the surface. Realignment begins with inquiry. What gives you life? What drains you? What would you do if you weren't afraid? Fatigue doesn't mean you're failing. It may mean you're finally close to waking up. We live in a world that has normalized exhaustion, where being busy is a badge of honor, and rest is often equated with laziness. But beneath the noise, there's a collective soul ache growing louder by the day. Byung-Chul Han, in his book The Burnout Society, speaks of how modern individuals internalize pressure, becoming both the master and the slave. We exploit ourselves, not because we're forced to, but because we've been conditioned to. We scroll endlessly, respond instantly, produce relentlessly. We live in a loop of productivity with no pause. And yet, despite doing more than ever before, we feel more empty than ever before. This is not just burnout, it is spiritual desolation. Carl Jung saw this coming. He knew that in the absence of inner meaning, humans would cling to external validation. But no amount of likes, promotions, or purchases can satisfy a soul starving for connection. And so we suffer in silence, smiling in meetings, crying in bathrooms, saying I'm fine when we're unraveling. We don't need more energy drinks. We need a revolution of stillness, a permission slip to reclaim our humanity, to say, I am tired, not because I am broken, but because I am living against the rhythm of my soul. Exhaustion is not weakness, it is wisdom, a quiet protest against a world that asks for everything, yet gives so little in return. From an early age, we learn to perform, to smile when we're sad, to nod when we disagree, to conform to what's expected, even when it suffocates our truth. These masks, polished, practiced, perfected, become our daily armor. And yet, they are heavy, not in the physical sense, but in the spiritual. Because every time you wear a mask, you silence a part of yourself, and over time the soul grows weary of pretending. We become versions of ourselves designed to be palatable to others, the obedient child, the efficient worker, the agreeable friend. But deep inside, there's a voice that says, this isn't me. And the more we ignore it, the louder the fatigue becomes. Carl Jung believed in the individuation process, the journey of becoming who you truly are. He warned that failure to embrace your authentic self leads to inner conflict, and this conflict often manifests as chronic tiredness. Think about how exhausting it is to monitor every word, filter every feeling, perform every role. This isn't just social fatigue, it's existential exhaustion. And it builds quietly until one day you wake up and don't recognize yourself in the mirror. Your soul isn't tired of life, it's tired of the lie. Taking off the mask is terrifying. It means risking rejection. It means being seen. But it also means freedom, the kind of freedom that breathes energy back into your body, light back into your eyes. The cure for this exhaustion is authenticity. The body doesn't lie. It whispers, then it speaks, and finally, it screams. Tightness in the chest, migraines without reason, stomach knots before meetings. These are not random. They are messengers from a deeper place, a place your conscious mind refuses to visit. Modern medicine often treats symptoms in isolation, but Jung saw the psyche and soma, the mind and body, as intimately connected. A soul in distress can speak through pain, through fatigue, through illness. When the soul is ignored, it recruits the body to deliver its message. You may think you're fine because everything looks fine, but your body knows the truth. It knows when you're forcing joy. It knows when you're saying yes out of fear. It knows when you're surviving, not living. This is not dramatization. This is biology and psychology converging. Trauma stored in the body, emotion translated into inflammation, stress etched into muscles. The body becomes a canvas for the soul's silent art. But here's the tragedy. We numb it with pills, with distractions, with toxic positivity. We silence the body just like we silence the soul. Healing begins with listening, with asking not what's wrong with me, but what is my soul trying to say through this pain? Every ache may be a cry for authenticity, every fatigue a call to realign. There's a difference between being tired and being depleted. Tired is temporary, depletion is existential. And when fatigue becomes your daily baseline, your soul is likely waving a white flag. Chronic fatigue is one of the most misunderstood conditions in modern society. It's seen as laziness, depression, or lack of discipline. But beneath the surface, something deeper is unraveling, a spiritual emergency. Carl Jung understood this. He knew that when the psyche is overwhelmed, it forces the body to shut down. It withdraws energy from the external world so that we are forced to turn inward. Chronic fatigue can be the soul's strategy to get your attention, to force you to rest, reflect, reevaluate. It's not a malfunction, it's a message. Think of it like a system reboot. Your soul knows something needs to change, and it pulls the plug on productivity, on people-pleasing, on pretending, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy. But here's the challenge: the world won't wait. Bills still come. Expectations still press, and so we fight the fatigue instead of following it. We medicate, push, deny, until we break. What if, instead of resisting, we listened? What if we treated chronic fatigue not as a curse, but as a compass? It's time to stop asking, how can I have more energy? And start asking, where did I lose my soul? You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. You can succeed in every metric society admires, money, status, recognition, and still feel like you're dying. Inside, that hollow ache, that numbness, that fatigue that lingers like a fog. It's not depression. It's disconnection. Disconnection from purpose. Disconnection from your inner truth. Disconnection from the sacred thread that ties you to something greater than yourself. Carl Jung believed that the modern individual suffers from a loss of meaning. In ancient times, myths, rituals, and spiritual traditions gave us a framework to understand suffering. Today, we have data, but no direction. We have comfort, but no connection. This void creates a unique kind of exhaustion, not of the muscles, but of the soul. You wake up tired. You go through the motions. You smile for the photos, attend the meetings, respond to the messages, but you are not there. You are a shell moving through space, powered only by obligation. And yet, the solution isn't always found in changing what you do, but in remembering who you are. Reconnection begins with presence, with silence, with asking uncomfortable questions. What am I pretending not to know? What have I sacrificed for acceptance? What truth have I buried beneath this life I've built? Disconnection is the root of existential fatigue. Reconnection is the beginning of healing. You sleep 8 hours. You rest on weekends. You cancel plans, take time off, even escape to nature. But the tiredness remains. This is the moment you realize what's draining you isn't physical. It's emotional, psychological, spiritual. This kind of exhaustion laughs at naps. It survives vacations. It lingers after spa days and self-care routines because it doesn't live in your body, it lives in your soul. Carl Jung once said that neurosis is the suffering of a soul that has not found its meaning. And when the soul is disconnected from meaning, it shuts down systems that once brought joy. Energy becomes scarce. Enthusiasm disappears. Sleep becomes a pause, not a cure. We often try to outrun this fatigue. We double down on routines, optimize schedules, even blame ourselves for being lazy. But this is not laziness, this is a warning. Imagine a river that's been redirected from its natural course. Over time, it stagnates, the flow dies, life fades. You are that river, pushed into channels that don't suit your spirit. No amount of sleep can compensate for a life lived out of alignment. No rest can restore a soul forced into roles that betray its nature. The answer isn't more sleep, it's more truth, more alignment, more courage to change what drains you. You don't need another nap, you need a new way of living. We are living in a time of hyper-connectivity and soul starvation. Our calendars are full, but our hearts are empty. We've built a world that rewards speed, consumption, and constant achievement, while punishing silence, slowness, and inner reflection. The modern lifestyle is in direct conflict with the needs of the soul. The soul craves meaning, not metrics, presence, not productivity, connection, not comparison. But we are taught the opposite. Hustle is idolized, burnout is normalized, and in this madness, the soul becomes a stranger within our own skin. Carl Jung warned that the modern man is in danger of losing his soul. And perhaps nothing illustrates this better than the epidemic of burnout and mental health crises we now face. We chase the next goal, the next hit of validation, the next dopamine rush, but none of it fills the void. because the void is not outside, it is within. And so, the soul begins to protest through panic attacks, through insomnia, through chronic fatigue. It tries to stop you in your tracks, not to punish you, but to save you. The world won't slow down, but you can. You must. Because if you continue to live in a way that dishonors your soul, exhaustion will become your only language. And that is not a life, it's a slow, silent death. Your soul is not meant to survive in this world, it's meant to transform it. Pain is a teacher few willingly seek, but one that never fails to leave its mark. And sometimes the kind of pain that lingers in fatigue, in restlessness, in soul-deep exhaustion isn't there to destroy us. It's there to awaken us. Carl Jung knew that transformation often begins in the dark. He called it the night sea journey, a descent into the unconscious, the unknown, the parts of ourselves we've hidden. It's terrifying. It feels like dying. But in truth, it's rebirth. You don't awaken when everything is perfect. You awaken when everything breaks, when your job feels meaningless, when your relationship loses its color, when your body collapses from carrying a truth you've refused to admit, that the life you've built is not the life your soul wants. Pain becomes the catalyst. It strips away illusion. It forces you to confront what you've been avoiding. And in the wreckage, something holy happens. You meet yourself, the real you, the one beneath the expectations, the one beneath the trauma, the one who remembers what joy feels like. Spiritual. Awakening is not a blissful event. It is a painful unraveling. But on the other side of pain is clarity. And from that clarity, a new life begins to form, not one based on fear, but on authenticity. Your exhaustion may be sacred. It may be your soul preparing you to wake up. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick, and you can't reclaim energy until you reclaim meaning. Most people don't need more discipline. They need direction. They don't need to be pushed harder. They need to remember why they started, or rather they need to start again, with purpose. Carl Jung believed that the search for meaning is the greatest journey of the human soul. Without it, life becomes mechanical, draining, and ultimately empty. But with it, even suffering becomes sacred. To rediscover purpose, you must be willing to let go of what no longer serves you. Careers, relationships, identities, roles you never chose but accepted to be loved. Healing doesn't begin with answers. It begins with questions. What breaks your heart and fuels your fire? What would you do if failure didn't matter? What has always called to you, quietly, persistently? Purpose doesn't always arrive with clarity. Sometimes it arrives through exhaustion, through collapse, through a whisper in the silence that follows burnout. But when you find it, you begin to come back to life. Energy returns, not from effort, but from alignment. Joy returns, not from pleasure, but from connection. And healing begins, not from escape, but from return. Return to what matters. Return to yourself. There is a kind of peace that doesn't come from rest, but from alignment. It is not the peace of comfort. It's the peace of knowing you are living your truth, that you are no longer betraying your soul for acceptance, success, or survival. This peace is unshakable because it's not based on what you have, but who you are. It's not achieved by doing more. It's revealed when you finally stop doing what drains you. Carl Jung said that we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Peace comes not by escaping your pain, but by facing it, loving it, integrating it. And once you do, something miraculous happens. The fatigue fades, not all at once. But gradually, as you return to your essence, energy begins to flow again, because you are no longer at war with yourself, no longer fractured, no longer running. You walk slower, you breathe deeper, you choose differently. And Even when life is hard, you are not tired, because you are held by purpose, guided by truth, anchored by soul. This is the peace fatigue cannot touch, the peace the world cannot give or take, the peace of being whole. Welcome home. And now, as we come to the end of this profound journey, a journey that has taken us through the silent cries of the soul, through fatigue, spiritual hunger, and the haunting weight of disconnection, we are left with a question that echoes deeper than any narrative. We've shared so far. What is your soul truly trying to tell you? Perhaps you felt it, that strange kind of tiredness, the one that sleep doesn't fix, the one that feels like something is missing, though nothing in your life seems visibly broken. It's as if your heart remembers a place it hasn't been yet, as if something within you longs to return home, even if you've never known where home is. That feeling is sacred, that ache is ancient, and it's not just psychological, it's spiritual. Because while the world speaks to the mind and culture pulls at your body, the soul responds only to truth. You see, the soul isn't exhausted because you've done too much. Often, it's exhausted because you've lived too long without hearing your own voice. It's grown weary of being ignored, it's tired of being silenced, and at some point, it begins to withhold energy, not as punishment, but as protection, a kind of divine intervention. We've been led to believe that life is about accomplishment, about success, about noise, movement, climbing. But when we strip it all away, what are we really here for? What sustains us when the applause stops, when the performance ends, when the house goes quiet and the mask is finally set down? What you are seeking beneath the layers of fatigue and emotional ache is love. Not romantic love, not fleeting affirmation, but unconditional, unfailing, everlasting love. A kind of love that does not demand you to earn it. A love that sees you fully, even in your most shattered form, and whispers, "You are mine." This love does exist, and it has a name. In the Gospel of John, chapter 3, verse 16, a timeless truth was spoken, one that has outlasted empires, philosophies, and ideologies. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. This is not theology. This is rescue. This is the Creator of the universe reaching into our brokenness, into our confusion, into our soul's fatigue, and offering rest, not just for the body, but for eternity. We were not created to run on achievements or approval. We were created for connection, first with ourselves, then with others, but most importantly, with the one who made us, the one who knows every tear you've cried in secret, every night you couldn't sleep, every moment you smiled when inside you were unraveling. He sees it all, and still, he loves you. In the story of fatigue, we often think of healing as a return to strength, but perhaps real healing is the surrender to grace. The moment you stop trying to fix yourself and allow the one who formed you to hold you, you don't have to carry the weight anymore. You don't have to pretend you're okay. You don't have to prove your worth through endless motion, because in God's eyes, your worth was settled long before your first breath. Jesus didn't come for the perfect. He came for the broken, the tired, the lost. He came for those who have tried everything and still feel empty. He came for the ones on the edge, the ones who've quietly said, "I can't do this anymore." Maybe that's you. If you feel something stirring as you hear these words, don't ignore it. That stirring is your soul responding to truth. It's the knock on the door that Revelation speaks of. "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in." You have that choice right now, in this moment, to open the door, to let go, to accept the love that never gives up, never runs out, never gets tired of you, even when you're tired of yourself. Say yes, not to religion, but to relationship, to redemption, to a love that will carry you when your strength is gone. Let your story of exhaustion become a story of encounter. Let your fatigue lead you not just to rest, but to resurrection. And if you're ready, if your heart whispers, yes, then speak to him right now. There's no script, no ritual, just a real conversation, a simple surrender. Lord Jesus, I need you. I'm tired of trying to do this alone. I believe you died for me and rose again. Come into my life. Be my savior. Make me whole. That's all. That's everything. Now, if this message touched you, if something resonated deep inside, something too real to explain, I invite you to share this journey with others. Don't let it end here. Click the like button, not just for the algorithm, but to let others know that these words matter. Subscribe to this channel so we can continue walking together through stories that stir the soul and awaken the spirit. And leave a comment. Tell us your thoughts, your feelings, even your questions. This space was made for honesty, not perfection. You are not alone. You were never meant to be. And maybe, just maybe, the fatigue you felt for so long wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your return to love, to truth, to home, to God. Thank you for watching. Thank you for feeling. Thank you for having the courage to journey inward. Until next time, stay awake, stay aware, and above all, stay connected, because your soul is worth it. Always.